Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levi, and today we're going to talk about Dana White's Contender Series Week 8. And my friends, it's going down this Tuesday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. We got 10 very bright prospects fighting for a UFC contract, and in my opinion, this week is one of the best matched episodes of the entire season. I really love the matchmaking here. Some tough ones to call, some very bright prospects. So without further ado, my friends, let's get down to business. So first up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Christien Savoie. He's repping Canada. He's 10-1-1, taking on Jacobe Smith, who's 8-0, repping the USA. Currently, they got it. Jacobe Smith minus 502. The comeback on Christien Savoie is plus 377. So listen, I got to give Christien Savoie a lot of credit. He kind of reminds me of, there was a Canadian that fought a couple weeks ago on Contender Series. I forget the guy's name. Cam Ralston, maybe something. Cam something. He ended up getting smashed, but he showed a lot of heart. And I think Christian's the same way. I think Christian's a very, very tough guy. If you watch his only pro defeat where he got submitted, man, he tried so hard to get out of that submission. Like, he didn't quit. It was just simply locked in. And yeah, he's just a tough dude. I don't think that there's attributes that necessarily stand out. I just see a tough, well-rounded, hungry guy in Christien Savoie. So basically what it means is if his opponent doesn't show up, then Christian might be live. The issue is when you talk about showing up, this dude, Jacobe Smith, not only is he 8-0 as a pro in MMA, but he used to wrestle at was it Oklahoma State? I know that they don't want you to mess that up between Oklahoma or Oklahoma State. It's one or the other. So let me double check. Jacobe Smith wrestling. Let's see. Oklahoma State. Yeah. Oklahoma State. So, I mean, already you come from a school like that, you're a serious athlete, but this guy's made the transition to MMA very, very nicely. If you watch his last two fights, like, it's one thing to go out there and get knockouts, but the way he's getting these knockouts, I mean, like, he'll touch these guys, they go flying. Like, I haven't seen reactions like this in a very, very long time. And I know he's been fighting a much lower level of competition than what he's going to see on Tuesday. And this will be a step up for him, against Savoie. I understand that. But if there's anyone ready to rise to the occasion and a step up in competition, I think it's this kid, Jacobe Smith. I mean, with his wrestling pedigree, but then you see how he's transitioned to MMA and he's becoming a devastating knockout artist. I think he's someone to look out for. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to pick a minus 500, but I think they're onto something here with this kid, and I'd love to see him come out here and show out. No disrespect to Savoie. I actually like him a lot. I wouldn't be surprised to see Christien Savoie get like a short notice call, down the line within a year or something. But I think this Tuesday night is going to belong to Jacobe Smith. I'm not sure if it's going to be one of his devastating knockouts or if he's going to have to, resort back to his wrestling. But either way, I'm going Jacobe Smith to win this fight. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got the return of Torrez Finney. He's 9-0, taking on Abdellah Er-Ramy, who's 7-1. Currently, they got it. Torrez Finney minus 245. The comeback on Abdellah Er-Ramy is plus 195. So y'all already are very familiar with Torrez Finney. We've seen him on Contender Series twice. Basically, the way he fights is actually like UFC legend Matt Hughes. Like, this dude doesn't just like to take you down. He likes to go out there and do high amplitude takedowns. He likes to pick you up over his shoulders, walk you to the center of the octagon, slam you. It's like I said, it's high amplitude takedowns. It reminds me of like a new school Matt Hughes. It really does. Like, not only the wrestling style, but the stature for the weight class. This guy's only 5'8" at 185. Matt Hughes was like, he was listed at 5'9". But dude, I took a picture with Matt Hughes once and I towered over him. Matt Hughes is like 5'6", 5'7", at 170 back in his day. This dude, Torrez, really reminds me of that old school Matt Hughes style. And then the thing with Abdellah Er-Ramy, so I don't know for sure, but what I can tell from watching his fights is that this guy's got a kickboxing background. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen any of his kickboxing fights, but it seems pretty evident to me in watching his MMA fights that this guy comes from a kickboxing background. And in that last fight he had in PFL, he ends up getting the first round knockout, but man, like, he got taken down easily. He got mounted super easily. And the only reason that he escaped the mount was because Buddy tried to go for an armbar on him, which Torrez Finney is not going to do. If Torrez takes you down and gets the full mount, like, he's not going to drop to his back for an arm bar. He's not going to drop back for a leg lock or any stupid stuff like that. He's going to stay on top and smash you. The way I could see Abdellah Er-Ramy winning this fight is he has to weather a serious storm. He has to weather a storm to the point where he's got Torrez, Finney so slowed down, so exhausted that's where Er-Ramy can start getting off on his kickboxing techniques. Because let me tell you what, when fights are slowed down and he's able to get off on his strikes, I mean, his left hooks, his leg kicks, everything, his knees, his elbows, like he's got that kickboxer confidence about him. The issue is that I don't think he does well fighting at a super high pace, and him winning is super dependent on Torrez Finney, blowing his load, slowing down drastically, which, hey, he lost the third round in his last fight on Contender Series not too long ago, but I think there was a big difference there with the opponent. And I said Cam Rouston. That's not who I was referring to when I was talking about the last fight with the Canadian that got smashed, because this Cam Rouston guy is Australian. That's not who I was referring to. I was referring to someone else. But back to this Cam Rouston fight with Torrez Finney, I think that's something he struggled with. It was that Buddy was like, he says he's listed at 6'2". That dude was like 6'4", 6'5", okay? Whereas here with Abdellah Er-Ramy, he's still a tall dude at 6 feet, but dealing with 6 feet versus dealing with, 6'4", 6'5" is completely different. And I think that Torrez Finney isn't going to struggle as much with the body type of Abdellah. The way he'll struggle here is if he wants to have kind of a low output kickboxing match. You want to go hook for hook with Abdellah, you want to go kick for kick with Abdellah, well, then you can get knocked out. But if that doesn't happen, man, I think Torrez Finney is going to grind this man. I think he's going to slam him Matt Hughes style. I think he might even get a finish here. So I'm going Torrez Finney, third time's the charm. Listen, even if it's ugly, I think Dana will be like, listen, kid, you've come on Contender Series 3 times and won 3 times. I can no longer deny you. Get your ass over here, Torrez. You're in the UFC. So I think making Georgia's own Torrez Finney is going to go to 10-0 and finally get that UFC contract. Now, featured bout in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between the former Combate champion, David Martinez. He's 10-1, repping Mexico, taking on Xavier Franklin, who's 5-0, repping the USA. Currently, they got it. David Martinez, -170. The comeback on Xavier Franklin is +140. So this is one of the tougher ones for me to call. Let me explain why. Because normally you guys know that I favor experience and paying dues over a lot. And you can see with David Martinez's record that, he's had his ups, he's had his downs, he's fought UFC vets, knocked them out, he's been deep in fights. Like, there's a lot to like about David Martinez. But, man, I know that this guy, Xavier Franklin's only 5-0, and usually that can be kind of a red flag. But, man, there's something about this kid. I'm telling you guys, like, the issue is it's hard to really, it's hard to be super passionate when, he's only 5-0 and, there's a lot of room for growth, a lot of room for improvement. But, man, there's a certain speed and athleticism and explosiveness that this guy Xavier carries himself with. I haven't seen speed like this in years. But now he's taken on the most experienced fighter he's ever fought. So it's a matter of, you have those 5 fights under your belt. You're evolving every single time. How's it going to look this time out against the best guy you've ever fought on the biggest stage you've ever fought in? But, man, if this is a kid that can rise to the occasion, I think that he's a problem. I think he's someone to look out for. But, again, the reason I said it is a tough one for me to call is because, look, David Martinez ain't just going to go away for anyone, man. This guy, I said he's Mexican. He fights like a Mexican. He's got a Mexican chin too. You don't just put this guy away. He is super, super tough, and he's well-rounded as well. The thing is that when I'm looking at ceilings, and sometimes ceilings don't matter because ceilings don't matter in terms of Contender Series, because sometimes the person with the lower ceiling who has more experience will beat the person with the higher ceiling. That happens from time to time. So yeah, maybe this is too much too soon for Xavier Franklin, but I'm going to roll with the potential over the credential of Xavier Franklin here, man. I just think that if he can show that speed I saw on his regional tape on, Tuesday night inside the octagon, this kid might be a problem. So, again, I can't say it so confidently because he is inexperienced. He is green, but I think there's some serious talent there. And I'm going to actually go out on a limb and pick him for an upset here against the Combate champions. I'm going to go with Xavier Franklin to get the dub. Co-main event of the evening in the featherweight division, we got Alberto Montes. He's 9-1, taking on Carlos Calderon, who's 6-2. Currently, they got it. Alberto Montes minus 275. The comeback on Carlos Calderon is plus 215. So initially, it was supposed to be Alberto Montes versus Robbie the Promised Ring, which I was kind of surprised. Like, why did they let that kid back on Contender Series? He got smashed. And he only had one fight since then. They're going to let him back. So he pulled out the fight. So they got this dude, Carlos Calderon, to replace him. Listen, man, Alberto Montes, I think he belongs in the UFC. This guy has a very unique style. So listen, when I watched his fights, I didn't have the commentary on. I was listening to music, so I didn't hear if they were talking about his background or anything. But from what I can gather from watching this man is that he has like a traditional martial arts background. Like, he seems like he probably has like a karate background. Like, he kind of fights with the hands low, has that in and out, the dart, the blitz, like all that. And he's nasty on the front foot, on the back foot, from range, up close, everywhere. And then another thing that Alberto Montes really has going for him that I'm a huge fan of is this man loves the front headlock series. You know what I'm saying? He's got a nasty dart. His anaconda, I've seen him not just submit guys, but put multiple people to sleep with his anaconda choke. I've seen him set it up while they're shooting on him. I've seen him set it up from standing. So, like, we talk about his karate background, but man, I mean, what about this guy's jits too? Like, it's super legit. And then the one fight that he lost, look, it was a good fight, but I think that it's important for every karate guy to understand that when you fight with that hands down style, like, you're going to be susceptible to getting caught from time to time. So after that fight, he actually moves up a weight class, because that fight he lost was at bantamweight. Now he's up here at featherweight. He's got more size. And I feel like in his most recent fights, he's kind of gotten slightly away from the karate style. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still there. It'll always be there, but the hands have kind of come up a little bit more. He's put on size. He's going forward a lot more. I don't want to call him flat-footed, because the dude does have great movement, but before he was a lot more bouncy, like that karate style. Now, I don't want to say flat-footed, but more flat-footed than before, right? So, yeah, I feel like this guy's evolving, and I think that loss was probably the best thing to ever happen to him, because since then, you see the confidence that he's coming out with, man. I definitely think he belongs. And with his opponent, Calderon, listen, man, he's only 6-2. He's on the green side, but there's a lot to like about this guy, man. For featherweight, he's tall for the weight class at 5'10". Let me see what the height difference is going to be here. Yeah. Alberto Montes is 5'7". So, yeah, that's what I thought. So, Calderon's going to be the taller man here. And Calderon, listen, man, he's a wild man. He goes out there and he gets right down to business. And if you show a guy like Calderon any kind of weakness, or you don't have the heart to compete, or you don't want to fight at the pace he fights at, I mean, he will put it on you, man. So there's a lot to like about Calderon. The only issue is I think he's kind of getting here a little bit too soon. I mean, he is a late replacement. Hey, he answered the call. You got to give him respect. He's been putting people away. But I think that Alberto Montes is just ahead of him at this point. And I think Alberto Montes is actually going to come out here, get a finish, and impress Dana White. And Dana's going to be like, Alberto, get your ass over here, kid. You're in the UFC. Main event of the evening in the light heavyweight division. We got Bartosz. I forgot how to pronounce these guys' names. I watched tape on them yesterday. And like, we got Poland versus Kazakhstan here. I completely forgot how to pronounce these dudes' last names. But Bartosz, we'll just say Bartosz. He's 8-2-1, taking on Diyar, who's 9-0. Currently, they got it. Wow. So they have it like a pick 'em with a slight lean on Diyar. So Diyar is -120 and Bartosz is -110. I'm going to just go ahead and tell you all right now, I think both these guys are UFC ready right now. I like both these guys a lot. When you're talking about this kid, Bartosz, I like literally everything about Bartosz except the fact that his head movement isn't the best. That's the only thing I don't like about him. I love his aggression. I love his hands, his high kick, his takedown defense, his athleticism, his size, his willingness to fight, his aggression. Like, I think that this dude Bartosz belongs in the UFC right now. The only issue I have with him is that he doesn't move his damn head off the center line. So, like, he's going to be susceptible at some point to getting caught. Like, that's just the bottom line with his fighting style. But, man, he 100% belongs in the UFC. And I think this kid Diyar belongs too. Listen, man, Diyar fights with a lot of confidence, man. He comes from that southpaw stance. He's got a lot of swag. Like, when you miss shots on him, he'll let you know you miss shots. He puts his hands up. Like, he's I like this kid a lot. But let me say something, though. I really think that his strength of schedule compared to Bartosz doesn't even compare. Like, so someone's going to be like, well, what do you mean? He beat Magomedov. Okay, guys, that's not the Magomedov that we all know. Like, you know, that whole like joke, meme, saying, whatever, like, Mom, can we please buy this? Son, we have this at home. Like, Mom, can we please buy Magomed Magomedov? Son, we have Magomed Magomedov at home. That's the Magomed Magomedov that Diyar fought. He didn't fight the bantamweight kid. He fought some, random guy that has a cool name, but ain't, doesn't live up to that name. Let's just leave it at that. And then that fight with Sordi, man. Look, he got Sordi out of there, but what you got to understand about Emiliano Sordi, it's easy to be like, oh, you got the former PFL champ out of there. I mean, this guy is obviously a badass, right? But like, the context is that my boy Emiliano Sordi was coming off like 3 straight knockout losses up until that point. And I don't want to sit here and say that the fight was sketchy or this or that, because I don't think that Diyar needs the fight to be, fixed or whatever, or pay Buddy to take a dive for him. Because I think CR's Diyar, not CR. Shout out CR Bahadurzada. Y'all old school fans know exactly who I'm talking about. But no, this is Diyar. That's CR. But I don't think they needed to fix the fight for Diyar. I think Diyar would have beat Sordi at that point of Sordi's career anyways. But the reason I brought up that, those words was because, like, dude, that fight was sketchy. Like, Sordi would go to turtle and cover up when, like, there was like no like pressure on him. Like, Diyar wasn't even on top of him, and Sordi was just covering up and turtle, like, please let this fight end. I think it was more of a quit job than a fix, because Diyar doesn't need a fix. Diyar is better than that dude. So I think that was just a quit job more than anything. But I guess the big point I'm trying to make is that I don't think Diyar is as battle tested as Bartosz. Now, that doesn't mean he can't come out here and rise to the occasion. It's not his fault he's 9-0. You know what I'm saying? Like, this kid Diyar is a stud, but I think that he's in for a real fight here. And I think that if he doesn't knock out Bartosz early, because like I said, Bartosz doesn't move his damn head off the center line. That's his flaw, man. Bartosz pushes a way higher pace. So I'm very intrigued to see how this fight goes down. I really do think it go either way. I'm gonna lean with the slight underdog Bartosz here, but man, I like both these guys a lot, and I expect to see both of them in the UFC this time next year. So now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So my friends, what is the fight to watch for Dana White Contenders Series Week 8? My friends, the fight to watch in this one is the main event. Listen, like I said, both these guys, in my humble opinion, belong right now. And the question is, like, is someone going to come out here and make the other guy look bad or whatever the case may be? Because when I was scouting these guys, I was like, shit, like, you can, like, you know how they just threw in that kid Ivan Erslan against Kutalaba? Dude, you can throw in Diyar against Kutalaba. You can throw in Bartosz against Kutalaba next week. Like I'm saying, these guys can come out here and compete in the UFC right now. So now it's about how they match up. I'm excited to see it. I'm going to lean with the more experience and the just more aggression output of Bartosz, but I'm not counting Diyar out. He's a stud too. So, oh yeah, I already gave you my pick, but that's my fight to watch, man. I cannot wait for that main event. My fighter to watch, man, there's so many I got my eye on this week. Alberto Montes, Xavier Franklin, Torrez Finney, Jacobe Smith. But man, I know you guys don't want to hear about the -600 favorite being my fighter to watch. And it's funny, the line just moved as we're doing this podcast. I believe when I was breaking down the fight, Jacobe was like -500. A couple minutes later, now he's already at -600. And yeah, you don't always want to make the -600 favorite the fighter to watch. But man, he is the fighter to watch. Like, dude, you have to go back and watch those last 2 fights and see just the reactions he got when he touched those guys. They went flying. I haven't seen knockouts like that in years. And this coming from a guy with an Oklahoma State wrestling background. What's his wrestling going to look like? So man, Jacobe Smith is my fighter to watch. Well, my friends, we did it. It's going down Tuesday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Man, thank y'all so much for all your support. Please smash the like button, hit the subscribe, leave me a comment, share if you feel so inclined. Shout out to Meticulous for the incredible graphics, thumbnail, and artwork that you've contributed, and just for being part of the team, man. I love having you on. And I love the fans. And man, I hope that y'all kill it tomorrow. Even if you don't bet tomorrow, enjoy the fights. And then, hey, keep your eyes peeled, because UFC 307 is this week. Y'all know Poatan is fighting Khalil Roundtree. We got the return of the legend Jose Aldo. I mean, man, this is a great week for fights. So I'm really blessed and privileged to be able to share it with y'all. Y'all can follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks. You can also follow me on Twitter at Half the Battle HQ. And then I'm on Instagram at Half the Battle Pod. I try my best to respond to everyone as much as possible on Twitter. they don't show me notifications for people that I don't follow. So if you sent me something I didn't respond, it wasn't intentional, just hit me up in the DMs. My DMs are open on Twitter to everyone. So you show me love, I'll show you love back. So thank you all so much. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.